Welcome to this peaceful moment, a place where you can slow down, breathe, and let your body relax. Take a deep breath in and let it go slowly. Feel the tension begin to fade, little by little. I'm glad you're here, and if you enjoy this kind of calming content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next sessions. Now, let's begin our journey into relaxation and calm. The winds howled across the ancient plains when the first humans had nothing but their minds and instincts to face a world ruled by primitive lions, saber-toothed cats, and giant hyenas. Night at that time belonged to the predators, and silence meant a danger approaching with soft, careful steps. On one harsh winter night, a small group of early humans took shelter inside a rocky crevice. The children shivered, and the cold air carried the scent of fresh meat that had drawn a saber-toothed cat, silently stalking. The members of the group did not possess the muscles of a predator, nor its speed, but they had something no other creature understood: curiosity. Uruk. One of the group approached a cluster of embers they had salvaged from a fire struck by lightning days before. He lifted a burning branch toward the cave entrance. The light glowed strangely, dancing on the walls and enlarging the shadow of the small human, making him appear far bigger than he was. The saber-toothed cat halted, confused by this creature producing moving light, and slowly retreated. At that moment, the humans realized that fire was not merely heat. It was a force capable of terrifying monsters. As the seasons passed, they learned more. Random screams were no longer just expressions of fear. They became part of a collective strategy. They struck stones together, creating sharp echoes that confused the predators. They moved in circles to protect their young and advanced in groups rather than scattering, which made them easy prey. Because they had observed nature for so long, they understood that every predator had a moment of weakness. They knew the direction of the wind so that their scent would not reach the nose of a hungry lion. They read footprints as if they were words. They hid when hyenas howled, and slipped forward at sunrise when nocturnal animals were exhausted. One day, a small wolf approached the edge of their camp, exhausted and hungry. This time, the humans did not flee, nor did they attack it. They left it a piece of bone. The wolf returned the following night, and over time it became part of their world. They did not realize that they had created the first alliance in the history of the earth. A partnership that gave them a guardian with eyes that never slept, and a nose that sensed danger before anyone else could. Mind, fire, community, and patience. These were the first weapons of humanity. Humans were not stronger than the beasts, but they were the most capable of thought. Thus, in a world where every step could be the last, humans survived. Not because they were kings of the jungle, but because they were the only creatures who knew how to turn fear into strength. As the centuries passed, the first humans began to change the way they viewed the world. Predators were no longer seen as invincible creatures. but as part of a system that could be understood and outsmarted. On one rocky plateau, a group of early humans watched from afar as a primitive lion chased a deer. They did not intervene. They waited patiently. When the lion finished with its prey and was satiated, it left the area, leaving behind some bones and scraps of meat. The humans approached cautiously, carrying sharp stones they had intentionally shaped. They knew they could not compete with the lion in hunting, but they could take advantage of its withdrawal. This was the beginning of what scientists today call strategic scavenging, a stage that taught humans the meaning of opportunism and careful observation. Survival was not always for those who attack, but for those who know when to approach and when to wait. As time passed, they realized that tools were not merely simple aids, but extensions of the human hand. They sharpened bones, crafted wooden spears, and then learned to bind sharp stones to their tips with plant fibers. In this way, humans transformed from creatures that ran away to beings who could defend themselves, repel threats, and strike when necessary. Predators had new calculations to consider. Humans were no longer just meat moving on two legs, but opponents who could inflict pain. And as their numbers increased, so did their strength. The group was the real secret. One weak individual, but 10 together. Noise, movement, fire, screams, stones, and 1 or 2 dogs at the edges sensing danger. Predators hesitated before approaching, calculating the cost of attack on a scale they had never known before. The night was long and frightening, but humans no longer waited for dawn helplessly. They lit fires at cave entrances and drew images of the predators they had seen on the walls, studying them with the eyes of an artist and the mind of a hunter. These drawings were not mere art, but written memory that helped the group remember the shapes of danger and its movements. With time, something new appeared. Boldness. Humans who once ran at the sound of a simple roar now approached lion tracks to count them and follow their path. They began to track animals instead of being tracked. Gradually, control in the plains shifted from the claws of beasts to the minds of humans. One summer night, while the human family slept around a calm fire, a distant howl was heard. The dog lifted its head first, then the humans followed. Fear was not the first feeling, but preparedness. That moment, simple as it seemed, was an unspoken declaration that humans were no longer just survivors in this world, but part of its core, capable of confrontation, experimentation, innovation, and self-protection. Thus, humans continued their long journey, step by step, until predators no longer chased them, but they understood and outmaneuvered them, rising above them. Humans did not triumph through strength, but through mind, learning, and an unwavering determination to turn every danger into opportunity, every fear into a new beginning. With time, the story of early humans took on a completely different dimension. They were no longer mere creatures trying to survive. They became architects of their environment, shaping their world slowly as a river shapes its course. On a foggy morning, Uruk stood at the edge of a dense forest. Giant footprints were pressed into the mud belonging to a massive herbivore roaming the land. But he was not tracking this animal. He was tracking the predators following it. He knew predators did not appear suddenly. They followed scents and traces, approaching carefully before attacking. Uruk knelt and placed his hand on the ground, trying to feel the faint vibrations that preceded a predator's steps. Humans had learned from nature itself that the earth spoke to those who listened. He returned to his group to warn them of the approaching danger and that they must move before night fell. With this new ability, sensing, predicting, analyzing, humans began to surround danger before it could surround them. In other planes, the women gathered fruits and mushrooms, listening to the movement of the wind through the trees. Gathering was no simple chore. It was a small science in itself, knowing which plants were poisonous, where water could be found, and which signs indicated the den of a lion or a hyena's lair. Knowledge was passed from generation to generation. A certain sound meant a leopard was approaching. A particular track meant a lion pride had passed by in the morning. A smell indicated hyenas were near. These small details were the true weapons that ensured human survival. Over time, humans discovered that cooperation was not merely protection, it was a superpower. When predators attacked the wild herds, the group spread into a half-circle, yelling as one voice, waving fire and stones. To the predators, it seemed like a massive attack, yet each human was afraid alone. But fear, when united, became strength. With each new dawn, humans learned another lesson. One night, a giant hyena sneaked into the camp and grabbed one of the children. This time, humans did not run. They chased it and rescued the child. This incident became a turning point. Humans no longer feared confrontation if necessary. On another journey, they discovered a high cliff overlooking the valley. They used it to watch animal movements. They could see predators before being seen. From that moment, they realized the entire land could be a weapon. Rocks, trees, elevations, even water. As new skills emerged, like throwing spears from a distance, the balance of power truly shifted. Predators were no longer the masters of space. Humans could defend and strike without coming too close. On a quiet night, while the campfires burned and spears rested on rocks, the tribe gathered, listening to the old wise man speak softly. We did not survive because we were the strongest. The beast is born with its teeth, but we forge our weapons with our own hands. This was the truth that would accompany humans for thousands of years. From a small ember accidentally sparked to an alliance with a creature that had once been an enemy, to a community that knew how to protect each other. Humans stood tall in a world that had hunted them for millions of years. They survived because they discovered that real strength lies not in claws, but in the restless mind and in the community that never leaves a single member behind. Through the passing seasons and years, humans grew confident in their ability to read the wild. They no longer feared every sound in the dark. They could distinguish between rustling wind and a predator's paw, between the sigh of night and the breath of a stalking animal. The danger was unknown, and the unknown is always the deadliest. Yet instead of fleeing, Uruk, grown wise and strong, stepped forward calmly. He bent down to touch the earth, smelled the soil, checked the sun and wind directions, then turned to his people and said, "This animal passed here hours ago. Its goal is not us." In that small sentence, the true evolution of humans appeared. They were no longer mere survivors acting on instinct. They were investigators, observers, readers of nature's book. Days later, they encountered this massive creature face to face, a giant bear from an extinct lineage. Its sheer size could crush the bravest hearts, yet it was tired and weak from hunger. They did not attack. They understood it was not seeking them as prey, but searching for food. They maintained a safe distance, lit fires, made loud noises, and the bear slowly retreated. This moment was another lesson. Fighting is not always bravery. Wisdom can save an entire community. Over the years, human language evolved. Gestures were no longer enough. Simple sounds, short words helped coordinate attacks, warn of danger, call for retreat. This emerging language became stronger than any claw, allowing dozens of minds to work as one. On a moonlit night, they gathered around the fire. Children sat in the middle of the circle, men and women forming a solid barrier round them. The dogs scanned the darkness, ears straining. Suddenly, pairs of wild eyes appeared in the distance. Then 3, then 5, a pack of hungry hyenas. The humans did not scream or flee. They stood together, shoulders close, waving flames, striking stones together. The scene felt as if the fire itself spoke, a wall of light. The hyenas hesitated, searching for a gap, but found none. They did not sense the natural terror in human eyes as before. This was a new era. Humans were no longer easy prey. The hyenas withdrew, leaving the humans standing, watching them vanish into the trees. As the flames rose, Uruk raised his voice, saying, "We once feared the night. Now the night fears us." That sentence was enough for the tribe to understand that the time of weakness had ended. Humans, with curiosity, intelligence, and cooperation, were no longer merely survivors. They had become the creatures who could rearrange nature around them. We have now translated a major portion covering the strategic evolution, alliances, and early tactical intelligence. This keeps the same pacing, narrative rhythm, and detailed imagery of the original Arabic text. The story still has about 15,000 to 18,000 characters remaining, covering the later events with the saber-toothed cat, the cave rescue of Nami, forest adventures, and the ultimate triumph of early humans. And so, among the claws of beasts and the darkness of the night, humans carved their long path toward the future. The road was not paved with strength, but with persistence, experience, and patience. Until this fragile creature became master of the land that once viewed it as mere prey. Thus, the early humans survived. Their story remained a witness that the mind, not claws, is the greatest weapon of survival. Many years had passed since that night when the early humans stood united before the pack of hyenas. With every new sunrise, they understood their world more deeply, realizing that survival was not a single event, but a continuous journey in which everything changed. The earth, the climate, the animals, and even humans themselves. In the following season of drought, the plains transformed. Grass turned yellow and water vanished, leaving only shallow, struggling pools. In this harsh world, predators were fiercer than ever, for hunger makes everything more dangerous. The tribe moved cautiously, traveling long distances in search of water. On one of these journeys, they reached a wide depression among the rocks where water collected in a narrow pit. Yet the place was not safe. They noticed huge claw marks, torn bones, and the remains of animal horns. This depression was a natural trap used by primitive lions to hunt anything that approached the water. The tribe stood atop a rise, observing the area. They needed water, but they knew one wrong step could end all their lives. And here emerged something new, something no other creature on earth had done. They sat together, discussing. It was not a discussion with clear words as we understand today, but gestures, glances, signals learned over generations. Then one of them, a calm young man named La, lifted a large stone and began rolling it down the hill toward the depression. The stone tumbled swiftly, striking the ground with force, a shock wave breaking the silence. After a moment, a massive primitive lion emerged from behind the rocks, roaring mightily, searching for the intruder in its territory. The humans stepped back, but they did not run. They merely observed. Minutes passed. When the area quieted and the lion departed, the humans cautiously approached the water, moving in small groups, drinking while others kept watch. This was the first primitive form of what we now call group strategy. Distract the predator, drive it away, then move swiftly. The tribe stored lessons of this kind as vividly as memory holds scenes of pain and survival. Over time, they realized that the plains alone were not enough to survive. Deep in the forests, new sources of food appeared: edible roots, fruit-bearing trees they had never known. But the forest was entirely different. Dark, full of sounds, predators climbing trees and disappearing among leaves like serrated leopards. One day, a small group from the tribe ventured deep into the forest. The trees were so tall the sky seemed distant. They heard squeaks above their heads, then a sudden flap, then silence. Heavy silence. A silence only humans understand when danger stares unseen. Suddenly, a primitive tiger pounced from above. It missed its target because of a child's startled scream. The tiger faltered. At that moment, the humans lit small sticks of fire they had carried wrapped in dry leaves. The tiger did not fear fire as hyenas do, but it hesitated, taking several steps back while humans advanced in a widening circle. In this way, everyone survived. When the predator left, fear was not the last feeling. It was awe. Humans realized fire was not merely a tool for cooking or light, but a symbol of power no other creature possessed. From that day, they lit fires in the forest before sleep, letting the smoke rise among the trees, like a guard who never sleeps. As defense methods evolved, so did the story of the alliance with wolves. The small wolf that had come to their camp was soon followed by 4 others searching for safety as humans did. On a cold night, the first wolf approached the fire, curled beside it. The humans studied it closely. They no longer saw a threat, but a potential friend. In time, the wolves warned them of night dangers, howls, barks, standing in certain directions. Humans did not understand their language, but it was no mystery. It was the shared language of fear. Thus, the wolf became part of their lives. Guardian, companion, hunter. This partnership was one of the greatest secrets of human survival. With each new generation, humans deepened their understanding of defense, offense, and organization. They learned to build simple shelters from branches and hides, to select high ground to sleep so predators could not ambush them at night. They even began to weave primitive nets from strong plants, to trap birds and small animals, providing food without facing predators directly. As their lives evolved, so did their consciousness. In the evenings, they sat telling stories of the day, passing knowledge to children, describing the shape of lions, the sound of hyenas, the trail of tigers. Knowledge became oral heritage, shared and enriched over the years. Hundreds of years passed. Humans became masters of the plains, not through strength, but through analysis, learning, and innovation. They were no longer mere creatures seeking survival. They planned, predicted, cooperated, and reshaped the world around them. And so, from the darkness of the first caves to the fires of the camps, to eyes no longer fearing the night, humans survived not by adapting alone, but by changing their world step by step. If they were not clever, they would not have survived. They were not united, they would not have endured. If they were not curious, they would not have turned a small ember into a civilization. Over thousands of years, the features of early humans changed slowly, as if nature itself reshaped them, to prepare for a world teeming with beasts. They were no longer anxious creatures, trembling at distant roars. They understood each animal's strengths, weaknesses, and rhythm. One day, the tribe reached a new territory, untouched by their feet. The soil was red, the air heavy, carrying some unknown secret. Twisted, short trees cast shadows unlike those of any forest they knew. Everything in the place was unnervingly still. La, one of the best trackers, approached the ground and bent down to examine the cracked mud. There was a strange print, like a giant fist sunk deep into the soil. He traced it with his finger, then slowly raised his head and said, "This place is not ours." But water was near, and hunger was harsh. They had no choice. They built a small camp and decided to stay for only one day. That night, they discovered the secret of the red earth. First came a heavy sound, like rocks grinding, then a faint tremor in the soil.